Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
And hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Looking really forward to the show tonight. Have such an interesting guest and can't wait to hear some of the stories that he's going to share. Before we get started, I wanted to give a couple of little quick announcements. First of all, I wanted to say hi to friends Sandy, Colleen, and Chris. I think they're watching. Anyhow, that's what they said. So if they don't tell me later that they saw me say hello, then I'll know that they didn't actually watch and they'll be in big trouble. But anyhow, also want to say hello to John Yost, who is the producer, director, writer, and star of Abduction Answers. And John, as many of you know, is fighting a really horrendous battle with pancreatic cancer. Yeah, that's the biggie. And I've lost someone really close to me to that very same thing. So this is something that's close to my heart, and John's a great guy. So there is a GoFundMe page with that accepts donations and good wishes to John Yost. If you get a chance, go to GoFundMe.com, look up John Yost, and if you can give $1, then do. If you can't, then send some good wishes and good prayers to John. Also, don't forget, we want you to become a member of this very, very channel and platform by joining KGRADB.com. And here I'm frantically looking for my banner, but there it goes. So if you get a chance, go on over to live.kgradb.com and sign up for a membership. And please, if you don't mind, use the code VISION for a monthly subscription, or Vision 22 for an annual. I would sure appreciate it. And you'll get a lot of good extra stuff that you would not get if you were not a member. And we're adding stuff all the time. I've just been apprised of some new things that are showing up there, and some of the things I'm going to be contributing to, along with many others. So I'm very excited about it. We're really, really beefing up the platform. And we definitely are the go-to place for paranormal information. And also, just shoot us an email if you like to sign up for, or go to the website and sign up for the newsletter. You don't have to be a member to get the newsletter. And we put it out every month, the first Thursday of every month. And it has stories and upcoming events and things like that you might want to read about or know about. And it's free. You don't have to be a member to do that, but yet you can keep up on what's happening within KGRA family. So please join us. Tonight I'd really like to bring on our executive producer, Bill, to help me with this show, at least for a little while, as long as I can hang on to him, as long as I can twist his arm to get him on here, because he knows my guest, and they've actually done some investigating together. So I want them both to share their experiences together, but certainly I want to get into more detail with my special guest. But Bill, where are you? It looks like a black screen to me. There you are. Hey, Bill.
How's everything?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Are you I'm forcing you on.
All right. So I don't even know how long ago it was that I went on an investigation. It was Halloween time. I think it was the weekend before Halloween.
This Halloween?
No. This was like a year or two ago.
Oh,
When Scott comes on, he'll refresh my memory.
let's get him on. Let's get him on. I
Sit
want
down.
to introduce our guest tonight is Scott Allan. He's a psychic medium, and he is the co-host of the Paranormal Project right here on KGRA. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Renee. Hey, Bill. How are you? Good to see you again.
I had no idea that you guys had been on an investigation together, and I just myself
Yes.
found this out.
Scott, you better include me on the next one that's anywhere near the area.
Well, yeah, and we need to plan something, but it was a year ago. It was not this Halloween. It was a year ago, so 2022.
Okay, now, where is this place, and what's the backstory, Scott?
Where in? It's in New York. Where in New York?
It was right across the river from me. What was it? Wappinger Falls, I believe.
Wappingers Falls. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Miss Fanny's Victorian Party House.
Oh my gosh.
Was it a bordello?
Gee, I don't.
In the past, a brothel? It sounds like it. Victorian Party House.
It was 3 stories, wasn't it?
It was 3 stories, and we had a crazy Estes method in that house. Do you remember? We were there. There were 2 of us upstairs and one down in the dining room, and we were communicating with walkie-talkies. And so there was no way that the person downstairs could hear what the people upstairs were asking, and the responses coming through. It's been over a year now, and I wish I could tell you exactly what we
remember
about,
because it actually brought up things that had to do with you. And we were like, what is going on?
I think I remember that now, Bill. I think you played some of that for me, or you told me about it or something, because it was talking directly to someone, but I didn't know Scott.
To Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a little bit of a brain like a colander, so I don't remember what I did yesterday for lunch. So, so maybe you can refresh my memory.
Let me ask you, how did you, if you recall, either one of you, how did you find yourself investigating this particular location? And like, what's the status of it? Is it abandoned? Is it still?
No, they live there. The owners live in the house. I had been there maybe a year and a half before that. And you'd been there before, or no, Bill? I don't remember.
No, that was my first time.
That was your first time there.
Okay, so you were going back, Scott.
I was going back, and Al, that was investigating with us, he had been there before.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's it's a regular home. It's not abandoned. There's heat, running water,
scary house or anything like that.
Well maintained, actually.
It is well maintained, and this time of year I like investigating places with heat. It's a beautiful thing. I don't mind that in July, but I'm not too keen on it this time of year.
Right.
I will say there was like what happened with the Estes method with him, because he was bringing things up that had to do with him personally, his like personal issues, and I was like, oh my God. But when they were using the rods downstairs, I don't know if Scott remembers this, there was crazy activity behind, I forget her name now, that was with us, Scott, your former co-host, Julie.
Oh, no, that wasn't my former co-host. That was another, it was Julie, but it was a different Julie. Okay. That Julie lives in Connecticut. She's also a psychic medium. My co-host Julie and I were there the year before.
Okay.
She was with me the first time, but not the second. So we've got a lot of Julies and a lot of.
Yeah. If you've gone back multiple times, what happened the first 1 or 2 times that made you want to go back for a third time?
So this was only the second time I had been there. The first time, to be honest, it was kind of quiet. We were there. There wasn't a lot going on. To be honest, it was, but that's how it is with this thing. Sometimes it's active, sometimes it's not. And when, Al was talking about going back, I was like, I don't know, it's kind of quiet. But then we went, we had a great time. We really did. We had a good time.
And then, so for people that don't know about what the Estes method is, probably one of you could explain it better than I can, but I know that it does involve, sound canceling headphones.
Right.
One person listening in to the like the Frank box type machine that gives out information, and then they speak it out loud. No one else can hear what's coming out of the box except for the listener. And then, the people on the outside might be asking questions, but the person with the headphones on can't hear the questions.
Hear the questions, right?
Yet they still come back with answers.
Right. And we did it. So they weren't even in the same room. So whoever had the spirit box and was listening with the headphones was in a completely different part of the house. So they couldn't hear anything. We were up in one of the bedrooms. They were downstairs in the dining room. Couldn't hear anything. And I don't remember exactly what we said, but I do know that the responses were incredible. I remember it was just unreal.
Well, did anything else happen in the house, Bill, when you were there?
Yeah, like I said, with the rods downstairs.
Okay, what do you mean by rods?
The dowsing rods?
Oh, dowsing rods.
So Julie was like toward another area. I think it was like a small dining room area. Matter of fact, a lot of activity happened in that room with the devices you had in there.
Right.
Scott, if you remember, there was, oh my gosh, it was freaky. But there was like voices and noises coming from behind, and he had all the equipment in there. It was lighting up like crazy after we heard the noises, and it sounded like almost like wind, and all the windows were closed, and it was behind her. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on?
Wow.
So there was definitely instances of activity while we were there in that home. There's no question.
And you were filming. Now I'm trying to remember. We were in that dining room, and there was something. You may have debunked it now. I can't remember. But remember, there was
something else. That was something that fell.
Something that fell off the shelf. We were just looking at, like,
that was me with my big freaking dump.
Walking across the floor. Okay, that's what I thought we did. But it took us a little bit because it seemed, at first that there was nothing near it. There was nobody near it.
Yeah, well, that does happen sometimes. I've seen it. So, it could have been. But yeah, it's good that you do take the trouble to, really investigate your investigation and make sure that you're giving out solid information. And it's always helpful because there's a lot of stuff going around out there that,
there is,
that's purposely faked. So it's always good when you run into authentic investigators who really want the real goods, really want the real stuff.
Before I leave, though, and it's like you said, it's a year. We both do a lot of things every day. And I'm telling you, when that Estes thing happened, and it was actually communicating like to Scott directly. It even mentioned your name at one point, or your son. But it was talking about an individual and a situation.
Did it mention David?
Yes, and it had to do with something that happened in your past with an individual that was traumatic for you. Oh my God, where'd she go? And you were like, no way.
Yeah, David is part of the story. David's part of the story, and I know Renee wanted to talk a little bit about mediumship and the opening to mediumship, and David is a big part of that experience. But he does show up everywhere. He's been in Vermont with me. He's been in The Conjuring. He's been everywhere.
David is somebody on the other side.
David is on the other side. David is a spirit guide, but David, we found out, may just be my twin brother, which is just a whole other thing that's just bizarre. And we can talk about that too. We may need to do another show by the time we get through some of that stuff. But we could just talk about David for an hour. But yeah, it was a wild ride. It was a wild ride. And he's still around. He's still around all the time.
Please let me know if you go on a future investigation, because I'd love to tag along again.
I would. And I do, and I want to. And I'm trying to think. There was a place. Are you familiar with Fainting Goat Island Inn?
Where's that at?
It's in New York somewhere. And there's a guy who's a YouTuber, and he was on our show, The Paranormal Project, last year, and we talked about wanting to do some investigating together and film. And I want to say, well, I don't know. It's in New York, but it's called the Fainting Goat Island Inn. And he said it's quite haunted, but they run it as an inn. So people stay there. Some don't make it through the whole night, but but they stay there.
Ooh,
Right.
that's the place.
So we'll look it up. We'll look it up and see.
And are there fainting goats there? I love those little things.
I don't know if there are now or there used to be.
Yeah,
But yeah, that'd be fun. We should
so
look into
cute.
that.
They
Well,
just
you
fall
guys have a
over.
great rest of your show. I don't want to occupy no more
Thanks, Bill.
time. Have a great night
Well,
and
Wanda,
have a great show.
All right. Good seeing you, Bill. Thanks for
You as
stopping in.
well. See you
All
guys.
right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I wanted to, yeah, if we could go back just a little bit and talk about your past life. But
Past this life.
this life, but
Yeah, this life in the past. Yeah.
past. And you were a funeral director for
It
a number of
was.
years, I think
Well,
decades.
yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly.
so how did that work with, I know at that time you weren't fully into your mediumship, certainly not professionally or anything, but
No, but
you must have had it already.
so yeah, it's been there my whole life. But I'll tell you an interesting story. So we just last weekend, last Thursday, a week ago yesterday, I was on stage in Massachusetts with a new show we put together called Providence of the Heart. And it is with actor and filmmaker Robert Neil Marshall. It was he and I on stage. He was in House of Cards and did
Oh,
casting for Veep. And it was just in New York because his mother was receiving an award for the work she did with Whitney Houston. I mean, they're an entertainment family. Okay. He and I were on stage. He's had a near-death experience, and my opening to mediumship, and that's what this show was about. And we're hoping to present it again. But the whole show was about this opening to mediumship. And so, we've been scripting this, trying to go back and dig back, like when did this start? Because we wanted to tell this to the audience.
mhm.
And I really think, back in, I was young, so I'm 57 now, and I had to be about 8 or 10 years old at the time. I remember delivering flowers with my grandparents. My grandparents owned a flower shop for decades, and we used to go to the funeral home. And when we did, we'd go right into the room, and the body was sometimes in the casket by then, and we would just let the body go, let the flowers down, and then just hightail it out of there because it was dark and smelled like stale carnations. So I didn't like the place. But one day we went in, and the two owners were in there adjusting a gentleman in the casket. And I remember this overwhelming feeling of emotion, which was really odd because it was the contrast between what I was feeling and what they were doing. So they were talking about the weather, the Patriots, the Red Sox, what they were going to do over the weekend, what they had for lunch. And I'm sitting here thinking, but this guy's dead and his family's coming in and they know he's dead and they're never going to have a life again with him. And all I can think of is all this empathic emotional stuff. Like it was like I was feeling the pain of grief.
Yes.
I did not think it was anything other than why are they not feeling what I'm feeling? How can they just go on with their life and do their own thing? It planted a seed in me. 6 years later, I was 16 years old. I got my first job at the funeral home, but it wasn't because I wanted to do anything with the bodies. That was a necessary evil. I really wasn't interested at all. I wanted to help the families because in my head, this is me, my young child brain saying, I can feel better than they can feel, and I will be able to help these families more because I care more. It's not true. I mean, in hindsight, I know that you cannot walk around with that kind of a grief all the time, or
No.
you can't do the work, right? You just can't. Same thing with a doctor,
it's
nurse or etc.
it's weird that you say that. Well, not weird necessarily, but interesting that you say that was sort of your first hint, was that empathy, but I've had that same thing, less so now than I used to because I try to control it.
Right.
But when I was younger, I could never attend a funeral, no matter who it was, even if I did not know the person at all, if I was just going to honor the family or something like that,
Yeah.
because I could feel the emotions of everybody in the room. And it was just overwhelming. And I would start crying and get hysterical. And it was so embarrassing because I know people were saying, what is she, what is
What's
she
wrong
trying
with
to
her?
create attention for herself? But I couldn't handle it. But I think as time went on, I kind of learned, to try to protect myself a little bit from all that.
Right.
But yet, okay, so I had that bit, but
Yeah.
it didn't ever go into mediumship. So how did
No, and I wasn't thinking that at the time either.
no,
I
but
remember asking my,
in hindsight, how did
yeah,
how do you feel like that was sort of part and parcel of is it like
Renee, the more you know, the
it's like
more you know.
stepping-
Yeah, it's like the more you know, the more you understand the signs and things that make sense. Because it wasn't just that event, but that was the first time I remember feeling any kind of an emotion that wasn't mine. But I just didn't know what it was.
right.
Um, I remember asking my grandfather that day, I said, how can people do this? He says, yeah, it's kind of gruesome. No, it's not that. It's the emotion. I wanted to know about the emotion. Like, how do you carry that emotion? I was 10. I remember being about 17. One of the next things, and this is all like looking back at it, I was 17 years old. And at that time, I was just cleaning the funeral home, mowing the lawns, washing the cars, just, job at last year in high school. But I would go with him, to a nursing home or a home or sometimes an unattended death. And there was a day, I believe it was a Saturday. I was over there working with him, cleaning, doing things around the funeral home. He he got a call that there was an unattended death at a home. And he said, well, why don't you go throw your suit on and we'll go. And I said, okay. So I went down to the employee area where I had my clothes and everything. And I said, hey, I have a question. How do they know he's dead? And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean, how do they know he's dead? I've been doing this for 35, 40 years. It doesn't matter. He's dead. We know it. So just, go get your clothes on. Let's go. And I said, yeah, but how do they know? I mean, I wouldn't drop it. If I said, would you get your clothes on and go? We have to get over there. So I did. I put my suit on and I was just getting ready to get in the car and the phone rang. And it was the police department. And he said, hey, don't bother coming. We found a breath in him.
Wow.
And we chalked it up to a coincidence. We chalked it up to coincidence. And that was that. We never talked about it again. In hindsight, I think, why was I asking that question? That was a really strange thing. Why did I even care? And why did it happen that time? That's the only time that has ever, ever, ever happened in my entire life, in my career, was that one day. So
Wow.
where did that come from?
Exactly.
And it just grew and grew
Yeah,
until,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah, until I left, until I got out of the funeral business. There was a point where I was just completely burnt out. And I said, you know what, I'm done. I need to sell. I need to get out. I need to move on. I'd been attached to a pager since I was in high school. My folks were getting older. I wanted to be close to them. I enjoyed what I did to a point. I was on the board of directors for the Massachusetts Funeral Directors Association. I mean, I went right up the ranks, but I knew I was done. I just could not do it anymore. And then when I got out, it was like the universe said, okay, time's up, let's go. And that's when it got really crazy. It got really crazy.
Now, by the time you left
Hmm.
the funeral business, you were the owner of the funeral home, right?
Yeah, I owned three.
Oh,
And one of them, the newest one, I had built from the ground up on this property that was owned by the Diocese of Worcester, Massachusetts. There had been a house there, I don't know, 100 plus years earlier. It had burned down in a fire and it was just a wooded lot now. And whoever owned it died and left it to the church, and that's where it was. So I bought it, and during the building phase, we were digging out the land and we dug out the foundation, and we found these really cool old druggist bottles from the 1800s, and pots and pans and shoes and all kinds of weird stuff that I just gathered up and threw out in the back of the garage and left them there. And that's when I started to notice that I could see and feel and hear things that other people couldn't see and feel and hear. And the place was clearly haunted, but nobody else picked up on it. I could pick up on people walking around above us. I knew when they were coming up the stairs, and I thought, this is really odd. But, we're going back to the late 90s, and I didn't ghost hunt. It sort of
right.
wasn't a thing you did. And I didn't have equipment, and I didn't know enough. to do anything with it, you know?
Did it trouble you? Were you trying to figure it out? Like, what the heck is this? And
You know, it was sort of, it was more interesting than frightening, to be
Hmm.
honest. I wasn't afraid. There was nothing in there that frightened me. It was my building. It was new. I knew it. I knew the place inside and out. There was nothing antagonistic or dark or evil. It was all just noises. You
yeah,
can hear, oh, they're upstairs walking around, or they're coming up the stairs. Or sometimes you could get the whiff of like an old person's cologne or something. You knew they were there.
yeah.
Door open and shut on me. You know, it was that kind of stuff, but nothing that made you say, I'm unsafe here, you know? So I wasn't really concerned at all. It
But
just,
were you concerned about your experiencing it while no one else was?
yes, yes. And at that point, but not then, because I chalked it up to, well, you know, it is a working building. We've got people in and out. There are families here, you know, and people are in there and they're working. So maybe that's why they can't hear it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's that kind of thing. I don't think people that came in for calling hours ever got any idea that there was anything going on. It was usually me when I was there alone, you know, working in the office, and I'd hear them coming up the stairs. I think it was one of my employees, and it wasn't. Or if I was downstairs, I could hear them walking around. So it was odd, but I just chalked it up to, well, it's, you know, it's quiet. That's why I can hear it. And nobody else is here at this time of day, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, it didn't really bother me that much. But when I started having the real big stuff come along, yeah, I thought I had either mental illness or an attachment. And I started recording everything because I thought, you know, if I don't record this, then no one will ever believe me. And I need to make sure that people can hear the things I'm hearing. And they did, fortunately. So, but, you know.
What were things
ahead.
like, what were they hearing? Like the stomping around and
No, God, no, that would have been nice. That would have been easy. It all started one day. We were at what used to be a church rectory for this church in Massachusetts. It's not anymore. It's an historical museum. And a friend of mine had said, we're going on a ghost hunt. Would you like to go? It was nothing I'd ever done before. I mean, as a funeral director, it's just that you don't do things like that.
right.
So I went.
You might not want your clients knowing.
Yeah, no, now I don't care. But there was 6, you know, my friend is retired. So she's an older woman. Actually, she was my co-host, Julie, the one that, you know, Bill was talking about a little bit ago. And she's the one that got me in, and we went, and we were in this back hall, kind of where the bedrooms used to be when it was a rectory. And somebody asked, do you know anybody's name? Do you know any of our names? And you can all hear about 10 or 11 of them start calling my name out. Scott, Scott, Scott. And I looked at Julie and I said, did you, is this normal? Does this happen to you? You know, is this a normal thing? And she said, well, you know, they've said my name, you know, once in a while. And I have to be honest, I don't like it, but I've never seen this. And I thought, that's really cool. You know, I thought it was cool. It didn't frighten me. I just thought it was really wild that all these people knew my name. And then a few weeks later, I thought, you know, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go on these investigations, I want to have something. So I bought a voice recorder, and I bought a spirit box, you know. So I'm home in my very not haunted apartment back then. And I turned it on because I wanted to see if it worked. And the voice came through and said, talk to Scott. And I said, I'm Scott. What's your name? This is David. And that's where the David comes in. Now, I will say, if people are interested in any of this, I have my YouTube channel. It's the Paranormal Project Radio Show. You can search it on YouTube, and all of this stuff is there. There's there's one video in particular called David's Back, and you'll see it. And it's my scariest experience or something, I think it's called. And you can look, and all of these recordings are there because I started to save them, because I thought, you know, if I can hear them and you can hear them also, then I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Then I may just be possessed, but I'm not, at least not mental. So, you know, So I started recording absolutely everything. So that was another experience, and I sort of told Julie about it. And I thought it's really odd, and she's, yeah, just don't do that in your house. You don't play where you live. And I said, okay, that's
Oh,
fine.
really?
That was her advice to me on that. A week and a half later, a friend of mine that worked with me said, "Hey, a man just walked in and asked for you." And I told him you didn't work, on Friday night. So I said I'd just give you the message. So I just want to let you know David stopped by. And I thought, well, I didn't think anything at the time. I thought, well, who the heck's David? Because I wasn't thinking paranormal, because he was on. I checked the video camera, the security. He was there. He was the person walked in, asked, turned around and walked out. And I thought, well, this is strange. Why does this guy know me and I don't know him? Never
Right.
seen him before. And to be fair, he never called back. He never came back. He never asked for me again. Never heard from him again. That was the one and only time. So we had
What
dinner
did
that
he
night.
what did
What
he
was
look
that?
like?
Tall, dressed in black, bald,
Ooh,
and yeah, it was like a black. Wasn't a suit or anything. It was like dark jeans. It could have been regular jeans. I don't know.
right,
But he had a black long sleeve, which looked like a t-shirt or something, like a
right.
long sleeve t-shirt or something. So that night we were going on another investigation, and I said to Julie, I said, strange thing happened. I said, this guy came in. I get kind of a weird vibe about him. I just don't know. Again, not paranormal, just like, who is this
Right.
guy? So I showed it to her, and there was audio with it, and she said, that's kind of odd. He sounds like the same guy that came through on your spirit box. And isn't that the same name? Oh, it is. And after that, it was relentless. It was everywhere I went. It was David, 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 David. Every investigation, until the point that it was no longer fun. It felt scary, because I started wondering, like, what's wrong with me? This is not happening to everybody else. And why is he getting my attention? The straw that broke the camel's back, there was this weekend I had gone to a class at this mansion, beautiful old Victorian mansion. It was 2 in the afternoon, beautiful sunny day. And I was sitting, actually, Julie was there again. She was sitting right to my left. And somebody in the room had started spraying like her French cologne or something. It was so strong that I couldn't breathe. And I don't mind a nice scent, but in a small room with like
Yeah, it's
15 people,
overwhelming.
it was overwhelming. So I said to Julie, I said, I'm going to step out for a minute and get a glass of water or something. I'll be back. She says, everything okay? I said, well, except for the fact that I can't breathe, I'm fine. And she said, why? I don't smell anything. I said, you don't smell anything? She says, no. So the guy who was running the class must have heard me. And he said, do you smell something? I said, I do. I said, I figured somebody in here had sprayed cologne. I mean, it's like in my face. And everybody else around the room was going, no, no, we don't smell anything. There's nothing. And he said, the woman that used to live here, her name is Alice Pierce. Ellen Pierce. She will sometimes do that to people that can see her or feel her or sense her, I guess is the word that he used. And I thought, well, I can't. Like, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? So they all broke for lunch. And I was standing there with Julie, and this thing came across the ceiling, this black, shape shifting, three-dimensional mass that looked more like an amoeba came
Yeah.
across the ceiling and disappeared between the chandelier and the ceiling and the emblem. And she did see that, and she said, that's incredible. I pulled out my cell phone and I said, did we just see you? And it said, yes. And then I could feel it. I could feel them. I knew there were two of them. There was one taller. There was one child. I could feel them walk around behind me. And I'm like, this is nuts. I'm getting the goosebumps now thinking about it, because I had never experienced that before, ever, ever, ever. That
Wow.
night, I got home. Friends of mine were in Rhode Island having an investigation, and they're in the woods, and they go live on Facebook. And the voice comes through the spirit portal. Where's Scott?
Oh, no.
And they said, Scott's not here. Who's this? This is David. thought, oh man, this is nuts. I've got to do something. And then the next morning was like, that was it. I went to get donuts for my son at the donut shop, and I was in a little bit of line to go around the building. So I just turned on the radio in my car. I hit scan to try to find a station,
Yeah.
and I hear Scott just like that, and I thought, did I really just hear that? I mean, because that's never happened to me in my car. And
Yeah.
so I said, I better get out the recorder again. I turned on the cell phone to record, and I said, you tell me your name. And this woman came through and said, David's back. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. I was actually terrified. I knew other people could hear it because I would play it back for them, but I was not thinking, oh, hey, I must be a medium. This is cool. No, I'm thinking I went somewhere and something is with me. Like I
Some,
have some kind of
yeah,
an
something's
attachment.
following you. Yeah. Something's stalking you.
Something is stalking me. So I had met a woman on an investigation who was a medium, and she was the only one that I knew that I could just pick up the phone and call. And so I did. And I said, I don't know if you remember me, but this is what's going on. I have the spirit after me. And I said, I don't know what to do. I'm terrified. And so she talked me through it. And over a period of a couple of days, she's telling me that, well, David just knows you can help him, and he's trying to cross. And I thought, well, I can't help him. Like, what am I supposed to do? And she's the one that told me, and I didn't believe her at all. She hooked me up with this other woman who's a shaman and a medium, and it took, oh God, well over a year of not, I don't want to say it really wasn't therapy, but it was how to control this stuff,
Right.
because I just wanted it to stop. At this point, it was just so intense. And it took a year of not believing them, even though all this stuff was happening to me. And she was telling me, just get friends of friends and practice, just experiment, and just tell them the first thing that comes into your mind, just whatever it is, just the first thing. And I realized that people could understand everything I was saying. They knew, when I told them things, I was getting names and who's related to who and what. I mean, all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, this is just out of this world. Because where have you been all my life? Where has this been? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Where has
Yeah.
this been?
Yeah,
Even
definitely. Well, you hear people obviously that say, "Oh, I've been this way all my life," and then you have people that have had some traumatic experience or near-death experience,
right.
and suddenly they're in touch with something. Was that what you were saying about your friend, the actor that
Yeah. My friend Robert.
NDE, and then and before that he didn't have?
Not really. He had some kind of past life regression thing that was really interesting, and some premonition type stuff that he couldn't explain.
Yeah.
He talks about in the show I don't know if you remember, many, many years ago, there was a plane that went down in the Everglades in Florida, and he had been with his mother and saying, "Ma, you're not going to believe this." I was just sort of like, I don't know if he said he was dreaming or what it was, but he knew where it was. It's Florida. I saw a plane go down. It's in the marshy area. He's like, "Oh, you have such a nice imagination." That was her answer. And then he said 15 minutes later, it came on the TV, breaking news, plane just went down. And he cried and cried and cried because he's realized, like, hey, I know I didn't cause this, but I knew it. And I
Yeah.
don't know why I knew it. And it's
Yeah.
stuff like that. After his NDE, he started having all of these really strange psychic type things. And he's by no means what you'd call, he doesn't want to be professional. Let's just put it that way. He's not looking to do readings. He doesn't want to do readings,
Right.
but he gets a
Just
lot of stuff.
developing these abilities. Yeah.
Right. But he has them. I mean, he has them and he's working through them. And it's incredible to watch. But I understand how it can take a while to to come to terms with this, because it certainly did for me. And then you have to come out of the so-called psychic closet because people think you're crazy,
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to deal with this, then I have to tell people, because I can't just do this in the dark. I can't
Yeah.
do it in the dark. So I did. And, people, some people loved it. Some people didn't understand it. Some people wanted more information. And I'm sure there are some that think I'm nuts. And, I can live with that. I don't care. I probably am anyway, a little bit. So who knows? But I think that it took a while. It took a while to really grasp it. I was even kicked off a team because I was psychic, and they knew it. And I had planned this little event, and they saw that I planned an event, like a gallery kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they said, sorry, we don't want that on our team. And they kicked me off. So,
Oh.
it's bizarre. It's just bizarre. It is what it is. But, I wouldn't go back for a second. I love what I do, and I love helping people. And in a sense, it brings it around full circle, because I served the bereaved for the sake of the dead. And today, I serve the dead for the sake of the living.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bring the messages through, and I love that. I love that I continue that work. And I think getting out and moving on and doing all the things I do is all part of that bigger plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had this conversation a couple of times recently about, wishing there was a way. And when you were talking earlier about, when you were a kid and you were there in the funeral home and you saw them preparing this gentleman and feeling
Yeah.
all these things. And I was thinking, I wonder if there could be like a different kind of funeral home, where things are set up differently, non-traditionally, that are more, I don't know, because I had this discussion with my friend James and some others the other day about how grief is for the living.
Mhm.
It's about us. It's not about them, because they are fine. Our loved ones have
Right.
passed over, and they're probably a heck of a lot better off than we are. But the grief part is not like, oh, I feel bad for them because they died. It's because I'm going to miss them, you know, and
To an extent, that's true.
and,
To
and
an
also
extent.
and also it's the not being absolutely sure, like any parent that's lost a child will
Mm,
tell you, you know, as I have, that the first thing is, wait a minute, where's my kid?
right.
What's happened? I cannot, I need to know. I need to know for sure. And so there's that part. But once you deal with the worrying about them part, then it's really about you know recovering from the loss in your life and filling that hole and all that stuff. Uh, but I feel like there's something that society has failed at, and maybe not all societies. Maybe there are cultures that are better at it than we are. Uh, that when someone passes, to somehow make it less traumatic by really letting people know that, oh my goodness, your your friend, your daughter, your father has gone to this amazing place where he's just waiting for you, and then you're going to go there too, rather than focusing on our personal loss.
That's the job of religion, but I think people are moving away from that. I
Yeah.
think death is traumatic no matter how you look at it. And I always tell people that when I do readings, the one thing they will never tell me is where they are. I don't know what it looks like. I think we just have to get there ourselves. So I can't tell anybody. I mean, I know they're in a good place because they come through and they're in a good way, but
Yeah.
I don't know where they are. I think they're here. I think they're right here. I
Right
think
here.
I think they're right here. I don't think it's up there somewhere or down there. So I mean, I really think they're here on a different frequency, on a different level. I liken it to a dog whistle. some people can pick it up and some people can't, but it's still there. And I
That's
think that, grief is always going to be traumatic. Saying goodbye is hard. And even though we have faith, some of us, that we will end up there too. And I do this work and I know that there's something beyond this. I mean, I lost my mom last year and it still stings.
yes,
It was, even though I do this, and I will tell you from personal experience and also from watching others, even though that they're in a good place, there's the but what if I'm wrong? That's the
yes,
first thing. And the second is, but they didn't have to go now.
right,
They didn't want to go now. They were 60. They wanted to spend time with their family. They were still a kid. They were whatever. We
yeah,
always want more. So I don't know how you can change it. I think what we can do as a society is to start developing more of a healthy outlook towards saying goodbye. Because I will tell you this, those that pretend it doesn't exist, and I've had people tell me that when you're dead, who cares? I mean, I've had people actually tell me that, and it's horrifying. When you stop pushing it away and embrace it, it's better. That's why we have funerals, and people that are afraid of death, or they what really is awful is when they tell the kid, "Oh, you're too young for this. I'm going to send you to the babysitter." Well, let me tell you,
um,
kids grieve just like adults do. They just don't know how to deal with it. And what
yeah,
they need is people to teach them and guide them and take them through the experience, not push them away so that they now have a fear. It's the fear that's worse than the reality in some cases.
yeah.
We need to
So,
include them.
you know, and I'm sure some communities handle it really, really well, but it depends on your support system that
Right.
you have around you during, that a
Yep.
tremendous loss. But I know that, like, my experience was when I lost my daughter, and this has been, a number of years ago. That's
Yep.
why I'm able to talk about it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not always able to talk about it without
I'm
getting emotional,
sure.
um, but it surprised me that how people reacted to me. It's like I could tell they didn't want to be around me or talk to me because they didn't know what to say.
That's what it is. It's not that they didn't want to be around you. They didn't know
They
what
didn't
to
know what
say.
to do, and they didn't know what to say. And finally, it was like the people that I kind of expected that would be so supportive were just helpless. And but other people just came out of the woodwork. And I would think, "Oh my gosh." I remember there was one guy here, live in Los Angeles, work in the TV business and stuff, and there was a guy from a film company that I had done some business with, not a lot, but we had met. And when he found out, he called me and said, "What can I do? Do you want to work? Do you not want to work? Would it make you feel better? I'll find you a job. Get over here." Just whatever he could do. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, I would have never expected it from him." We weren't that tight, but he related not from a loss of of a child, but from the loss of his father. It hadn't been that long ago. So he was in tune, with how I might be feeling. But it was so weird. And then I had other friends who were like girlfriends that were moms. And also, and I think they found it so difficult because this is what I'm thinking. They're thinking, here I am with my child, and hers is gone. What can I say? What if the baby's around and it makes her feel worse and all that
And
sort
that's all valid thought. I mean, it's, especially if you've not lost a child, I don't know how you can possibly know what it's like, so you
Oh,
want,
yeah. It's
you
like I
know,
can understand not knowing,
right.
exactly. But having been through that myself, now I know, just be there,
Just be
don't
there.
worry about, just don't be giving a bunch of advice. That's all.
No, and you can't fix it, so don't try. It's not
No.
about that. It's not about it's not about fixing it. I think that was really hard for me to learn too, with any loss, at the funeral
Yeah.
home, but especially the younger folks. You know, I can't fix this. I can just
Yeah.
help them. It's not going to make them feel better. I'm just going to get them from today to tomorrow and to the next day. That's it.
Just help them walk through it, and that's it.
That's
'Cause
it. And I always used to say, one analogy I used to make all the time was that there's this room in your house that you always cross to get to the kitchen. It's the living room. And one day you wake up and you get to the living room and there's this massive hole in the living room and you can't get to the kitchen. You can't get across the floor. How am I ever going to get to my kitchen again? I can't get there. But you realize after a number of times that if you stand really close to the wall and sidestep, you can make it. So you will get to your kitchen, you will eat your breakfast, but it's not going to be the same as it was before because you can't just run across the floor. Life will go on. It's just going to be different, and you'll figure out how to manage it. And that's coming from someone who, hasn't had, thank God, the greatest of losses, which I can't imagine what that's like. But I feel like the analogy can work for people. I think that that's
Yeah.
just what it ends up being is the hole doesn't go away. You don't heal. You
Yeah.
don't feel better. It's never going to be okay. It's never going to be the same. It's just is, and you have to learn to live with it. And you will somehow,
You will.
with people.
And, you absolutely will. And it will be different, but it's going to be, and it's not going to be your old normal, but it will be a new normal. You will adjust and stabilize, if you really want to, and not to criticize anyone, but I have met people who sort of chose to just give up and live in their grief.
Yeah.
When my daughter first died, I went to a grief, support group, and there were women there that were saying, "Well, I think I might be ready to go back to work now. My son's been gone 15 years now." And I was like, "You mean I'm not going to be normal for 15 years?" I mean, oh my, it scared me to death.
Yeah.
And the facilitator of the meeting came over to me afterwards because he saw me and he knew that I was fresh. And he said, "I just want you to know you will feel joy again." And I so appreciated him saying that because I was thinking, I'm in for 15 years of just total incapacitation. But it wasn't that way. It does take a long time, but it's a good journey. But real quick, because we're running
Yeah.
out of time,
I
I
know
want
it.
to know, uh, like, when you experience your mediumship, when you're getting messages, thoughts, what are you feeling, seeing it? Do you see it? Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Is it like a feeling?
Everything, all of the above. I say it's like a 4 millisecond blip of a thing that'll flash across my face, like I'll see it.
Right.
And in that is this micro burst of emotions and thoughts and feelings and understandings. And it's almost like memories that are mine that are not mine, memories that I know that are that are not mine, that I've never heard of before. And so when I say I hear it, I don't hear
You
it like I
just,
hear you.
you, is it that you know it?
I just know it. And
You
that
know,
that's a big part of it.
yeah,
But like yesterday, it was like Disney World, right in the middle of the reading. I said, "Oh my God, you go to Disney World." And sometimes the mouth engages before I even realize I'm saying it.
yes,
If I know ahead of time that she's going to Disney World, I can't discern whether I know it because I know it or because I just got it. It's that subtle. That's why I
yeah,
don't want to know anything going in. It completely throws me off. But she's like, "Oh my God, yeah, we just set up the trip to Disney World yesterday." Cool. And
great,
that's how
yeah,
it happens. It's like that fast and that instantaneous.
yeah, yeah. I can understand. I've had a few things happen through life where there was just something would flash through, like you said,
Yeah.
And it was just, I knew it. It was something that was going to happen. And I know nothing big or dangerous, but just, this is going to happen. And you could not dissuade me from it. And sure enough, even though I did everything for it not to happen, it happened anyway. It was just a very simple. My boyfriend was out of town visiting his parents, and at midnight, I just sat straight up and said, he's going to miss his plane. And so I called him at 3 a.m. where he was, because he was on the East Coast. And I said, you're going to miss your plane tomorrow. And he goes, is that why you called? And I said, yeah. Anyway, he goes, I'm not going to miss it. My aunt's coming by to pick me up, blah, 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 blah. Next morning, I'm in the kitchen doing the dishes. The phone rings, and I know it. I know it's him.
Yeah.
And I know he's going to say that he missed his plane. And that's exactly what happened. And it was nothing they could have done because there was some construction. She even came early.
Yeah.
It was really funny. So
those are the moments. Those are the moments.
But it's like, why I knew that, I don't know. But I knew it, and there was nothing you could do to tell me any differently.
You're right. And we all have those little bits of magic in us. We really do. We all have it.
Before we run completely out of time, because I'm getting the warning signal from Bill, Paranormal Project, what time, what day?
Okay, Paranormal Project, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. We talk to all the paranormal influencers about all of the paranormal stuff going on. I mean, we have mediums, we have everything. But Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. My website is mediumscottallan.com, ALLAN. And if you go to my website and put in your name and email address, I'll send you my free ebook on how to prepare for your mediumship reading.
Ooh.
And so you can subscribe to my newsletter there.
I want that. I'm going to do that. That's
beautiful.
Great. Well, Scott, I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, of course, always to Bill, who's always
hiding,
standing by and keeping everything in order, keeping everybody in line. All right, guys.
Thanks for having me, Renee.
Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.